We're back at the Fantasy Bar 6 of my favorite wide receiver best ball plays over on DraftKings, including a trio of wide receivers being drafted after a higher drafted teammate, my favorite value wide receiver, and what wide receiver I think can finish in the top 5 that only costs you a top 20 wide receiver pick. Who is it? Belly up to the Fantasy Bar and find out. Welcome in, guys. Special DraftKings Best Ball Edition here, continuing our series position by position. This video, we will look at the wide receiver position, a very deep position in fantasy this season, a ton of options, but I've narrowed things down to 6 of the guys I've been drafting the most at all different price points here, including a beast that will surprise you, a guy I think that has top 5 upside, and you don't have to take him inside the top 20 at the position. So we'll get to that at the end of the video. Stay tuned for that. Before we get into the plays, guys, special offer for you just for hanging out here at the Fantasy Bar. Head over to RotoGrinders.com/beer for $10 off a Core 4 premium subscription. And what does that mean? We're not only giving you one sport, we're giving you 4 sports under one umbrella with the best premium content out there. You get NFL football right around the corner. You get MLB, NBA, as well as PGA Tour golf. And what a better place than RotoGrinders to get your premium information from. Our revolutionary lineup HQ tool can build 1 to 150 lineups in a matter of seconds. You can adjust whatever projections you want. We have ownership projections, premium articles and videos, everything under one umbrella. RotoGrinders.com/beer to take advantage of that limited time offer and $10 off that subscription. Also, if you're on YouTube, guys, please do me a favor. Make sure you click that thumbs up button. Helps us out tremendously, and I greatly appreciate it. All right, let's talk some wide receivers here. Let's start in the 3rd round ADP area. We're going to go with Juju Smith-Schuster of the Steelers. Now, I've been gushing about the Pittsburgh Steelers all summer long. If you've caught any of my content here on RotoGrinders, you know this is a team I want to be heavily invested in across the board, and it starts with Juju Smith-Schuster here in the 3rd round, middle of the 3rd round. Let's go back to his last full season with Ben Roethlisberger. We're talking about 166 targets in that season. Well, Ben is back. I know Antonio Brown is out of the picture, who helped open things up for Juju, but going to go back into the slot here. And Deontay Johnson, a guy that is dangerous. They bring in Eric Ebron. They bring in Chase Claypool. James Conner is healthy. James Washington provides a deep threat. So there's a lot of different weapons here where the defense is not going to be able to focus on one guy. I think Juju's going to return to form here. And at a 3rd round ADP, we're talking about a guy that can be a top 3 wide receiver in this league. So if you go running back heavy in the first 2 rounds, which is my preferred strategy, doesn't always go that route. You have to adapt to the draft. So in a build like that, Juju makes a lot of sense as your foundation, your wide receiver 1 here. Love getting him as part of a Pittsburgh stack as well, but even if not, I think he's a phenomenal play, a phenomenal value, and a guy I've been drafting a ton, going to continue to draft. Love me some Juju here in 2020. All right, let's get you a value. In fact, the best value, in my opinion, at the wide receiver position, deep in the drafts, Preston Williams of the Dolphins. So I absolutely love the price tag on Preston Williams. I think he's 2, 3, 4 rounds potentially too cheap here with a 12th round ADP. I see teammate Devontae Parker going in the 5th round. I don't hate Parker, but why not wait 7 rounds and grab Preston Williams here? Unless you're going to stack Miami and grab them both. But Preston Williams, a screaming value here. Before the injury, this guy was on pace for 120 targets. If you're going to give me 120 targets in the 12th round, I'm going to take that every day of the week. Looked like the better receiver a lot of weeks than did Devontae Parker. And let's not forget, it wasn't until Williams went down when Parker really went on his run there. So adding it all up, I really think this offense is going to be improved. The running back play will be much improved with Jordan Howard and Matt Breida. They have a weapon at tight end in Mike Gesicki. You could potentially see Tua here. But even if it's Ryan Fitzpatrick, we know he's a gunslinger as well. Preston Williams, yes, was undrafted out of Colorado State, but this is a guy that had 1st round pedigree, had some issues in college, so he's not coming out of nowhere. We saw the talent last season. He's healthy. He's tearing up camp here. Easily the best value on the board in this loaded 2020 wide receiver class. Preston Williams, make sure you go out of your way to get him in those lineups. You don't have to wait till the 12th round. I'm fine grabbing him anywhere in the 9th to 11th round and making sure you secure him, get him on your lineups, and he will vastly outproduce this wide receiver 60. It sounds crazy even saying that. He will outproduce that price tag with no issues. All right, let's get back to the mid-range here. Another guy, keep moving up my boards, Calvin Ridley of the Falcons. So 0 issues with Julio Jones. I love Julio as much as the next guy, but Julio's going to cost you a second-round pick. You can get Calvin Ridley here in the 4th round, or even better, do a little stack. Grab them both, get some Matt Ryan later in your draft. But we know this is a team that's going to throw the ball. Last season led the NFL in passing attempts with almost 700. You think about the weapons on this team. They brought in Hayden Hurst, who I do like. You have Todd Gurley out of the backfield, but you really don't have a wide receiver 3 per se. Russell Gage, a decent player. The point is the ball is going to go to Julio and it's going to go to Calvin Ridley. And after Mohamed Sanu was traded away, it was Calvin Ridley that led this team in fantasy points per game from that moment forward. So could see a changing of the guard here again. I love me some Julio, but Calvin Ridley a little bit cheaper. I think the breakout here is coming. Wide receiver 16 cost. I think he can give you a top 10 return there. Really loving the prospects here for this offense, specifically for Calvin Ridley. All right, let's get to the guy I really like. Plant my flag here. It's risky, no doubt, but I'm swinging for the fences with Will Fuller of the Texans. Now, this is another guy I've been talking about all summer long. Love me some Will Fuller. You're shooting for upside in these drafts, and that's exactly what you're doing with a guy like Will Fuller. DeAndre Hopkins heading out to the desert, 150 targets for Hopkins last season. Those have to go somewhere. You talk about rapport with your quarterback. Will Fuller has that with Deshaun Watson. Randall Cobb does not. Brandon Cooks does not. And in this limited preseason action, that is a big deal. Receiver switching teams takes them a long time to acclimate here. Watson is going to depend on Will Fuller. We know he's going to give you spike weeks. I know the other side of this argument is the injuries. I get it. Let's pretend Will Fuller plays 16 games and doesn't get hurt. Where are we drafting him? He's probably a 2nd, 3rd round pick. It's only costing you a 6th round pick for a guy that has the upside to be the wide receiver 1 this season. So some are going to be risk averse. Some are going to be scared of the injury history. That's fine. Me, I'm trying to win these damn contests, and a guy like Will Fuller can help me do that. And hopefully that's the case, because he's going to be on a ton of my best ball rosters. Already is. We're not done drafting. Going to grab even more shares here. But Will Fuller in the 6th round, absolute steal in my opinion. All right, let's get you another guy I think is going overlooked here, and that's Marvin Jones of the Lions. So this is one I compare him to a 3rd round ADP of Kenny Golladay, and I really scratch my head here. This one I don't understand. When you look at the per game numbers here, Jones played a few less games because of the injuries. Every single number across the board looks very similar to Kenny Golladay, whether it's target, yards per game, touchdowns per game. They all look around the same, and Golladay had that ungodly 18 yards per catch that is just unsustainable. So I think Marvin Jones going to be just as good as Kenny Golladay, and you're going to get him 4 rounds later. So why is he so cheap? Elevated age, unsexy name. You know, no one's excited about Marvin Jones. We're looking at some of those new targets, the Hollywood Browns of the world. So that helps slide Marvin Jones down the board to us. Take advantage of that value. And the Lions, a team I really want to stack, and it does not even have to include Kenny Golladay. Give me a Marvin Jones, TJ Hawkinson, Matthew Stafford stack, and I'm elated in these drafts. Never thought I would say that, especially as a Packer fan, but we put that aside. The Lions offense can be very good this season, but Marvin Jones, a guy that's a steal at wide receiver 35 with wide receiver 20 upside. Get some exposure here to the undervalued Marvin Jones. All right, it's time to take a look at my favorite wide receiver in these best ball drafts. But before we do that, guys, I want to hear from you. Who's your favorite wide receiver? Give me the case in the comment section. Make a case for your guy this season, the best value, your favorite wide receiver, the guy you're drafting the most, whatever it may be. Whoever makes the best case in the comments, I'm going to give you a free week of RotoGrinders Premium just for making that case, just for telling me who your guy is and sharing it with the people. So maybe we'll even give out 2. So let's hear about your favorite receivers in the comment section. Do you agree with some of mine? Disagree? Let's talk wide receiver. But before we do that, let's get the last receiver out of the way here. A guy I think is going to provide you a huge return at a mid-range cost. We call him the wide receiver beast of the year. All right, beast time. We're going to go out to Seattle. There's 2 receivers there to choose from. I love them both, but I'm going with Tyler Lockett, my wide receiver beast of the year. So let's look back at last season. You're talking about a guy that was on a top 5 pace and then got hurt in week 10 and things kind of slowed down. And I think the Seattle offense going to be a little bit more balanced this year. We know they love to run the football with Chris Carson, pound the rock, but I think you're going to see them unleash Russell Wilson here a little bit more. I don't think the defense is going to be as good this season, so they're going to get into more shootouts here, going to lead to more passing attempts, going to lead to more targets for Tyler Lockett, who led the NFL in red zone targets last season. We don't think of Tyler Lockett as a red zone guy being a smaller receiver, but that is in fact what he's done. He was very productive in that area of the field. And the big selling point here, not only Seattle opening things up more, but there's nobody else to throw to outside of DK Metcalf. Greg Olsen going to get a few targets. There's no wide receiver 3 per se. The running backs don't get used a ton in the passing game. It's going to be a lot of Metcalf, a lot of Lockett. I prefer Lockett here. Easily my favorite wide receiver at cost. I'm giving you a top 5 finish here for Tyler Lockett at a wide receiver 23 price tag. Tough to beat there, Tyler Lockett, my wide receiver beast of the year. All right, guys, that'll wrap us up here for our wide receiver best ball 6-pack on DraftKings. Any comments, questions, feedback, hit me up in the comment section. Don't forget, let me know who your favorite wide receiver is for a shot at some free RotoGrinders Premium. Also, give me a follow over on Twitter at BeerMakersFan. Love talking football with you guys over there. For RotoGrinders.com, I am Beer saying salut. Best of luck this season, guys. Quarterback, running back video already out. Tight end video to come.
What is going on, RotoGrinders? Dean here. It's Dean 7904 if you want to get all technical. I mean, it's 5:30 on the East Coast on the dot, 2:30 on the West Coast, 4:30 Tennessee time, which, of course, it's time for the flagship show here at RotoGrinders. It's called Grinderslive. Joining me today is Chris Kirkwood, a.k.a. Kirk Dees, a.k.a. dude that won all the money last night. At least you won a good portion of the money. Kirk, you were telling me pre-show you liked your lineups and you just loaded up. And, we'll talk about that in a second, but it's interesting. I hear people say this, and I'm curious to get your thoughts. I hear people say, well, I play X number of dollars for tournaments every day. I play X number of dollars for cash every single day, and that's that. And, I don't do that. I what does the slate give me? If I feel like I have an edge in the slate, I'm going to play more. If I feel like I don't love the slate, I'm still going to play because I'm doing the research and yada, yada, yada. You want to get a taste, but I'm not going to, fully load up. I might pull back a bit. You're aware that people do that, and that's wrong, isn't it?
I don't know if it's wrong. It's not my style.
Yeah.
I'll just say that. So I'm like you. So I'm completely slate dependent, and depending on what kind of contest I like. So yesterday I spent all day over one lineup that I really liked a lot. So I'm not a big cash player. I don't play tons of cash, but so yesterday I was just entering tons of cash, tons of high stakes cash, and I entered the Thunderdome and things. It was just because I loved this lineup, and it was what the slate gave us, and I felt really confident with it. So I'm it's all based on how confident I am on a slate, depending, sometimes I'll just take what it gives us. Sometimes I'll multi-enter. Most of the time I don't,
Yeah. What did you have? Did you have an Ozuna, Dickerson outfield, something like that?
I had no Ozuna. I had Dickerson, of course. I had for the Giants, I had Lindor, Ramirez, the chalk pitching, and I struggled with in my last spot whether I was going to go Ian Happ as a one-off or use Franmil for the 4-3 stack, and I chose Ian Happ, and I got off to a great start, and I was victory lapping, and then before you know it, Franmil passed him. But all in all, it was a good night.
Yeah, if you need to break a tie, just who's facing Matt Harvey? Okay, that's where we'll go, and that's got to be it, right? That's got to be. I mean, we appreciate the effort. He can't go back out there in 5 more days, right? That's not happening, is it?
I don't understand how he's there. It's just amazing. I was expecting to get the DFA'd announcement anytime today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they have somebody that they can throw, but whatever, man. For our sake, I suppose we want him back. And, hey, this is Daily Fantasy Sports. All we care about is today, not yesterday and not tomorrow. Today, we kind of, sort of, somewhat have a version of Matt Harvey, I think you could argue. Julio Teheran. Are you texting somebody? What are you doing over there? I see you looking down.
I was just getting ready for things.
Right. I rarely watch the other person when I do these shows. I just kind of talk, and it's out of my peripheral, but I kind of have the blinders on, like I'm secretariat or something like that. But yeah, I happen to see you looking down, like I thought you were on your phone or something. But all right, yeah, I'm sure. Whatever it was important. We're good to go.
I was pulling up something on my phone.
You know what? I know what you were doing. This is what you're doing. This is the seamless segue. You were locking in your sharp side pick, right?
That's already locked, my friend.
Well, play along. I mean, this is a promo kind of sort of something. Yeah. We want to tell the people what the sharp side app.
Yeah, sharp side app. I got my lock bet going. I don't know if you wanted to say it now or you want
to
come back to. Yeah, McKenzie over strikeouts. We'll get to the analysis later, but against this KC team, I just like this kid in general. I like his whole arsenal of pitches. We'll get into it when we talk pitchers. But 4.5 Ks, take the over, lock it in, bet all your money on it.
All right, Devin, our fabulous multitasking producers went ahead and dropped the link in chat for you guys. As far as the sharp side app, we always talk about it all the time. You get yourself a streak of 6 winners in a row for picks 6 through 10. If you have a streak from 6 to 7 to 8 to 9, every pick, every single one of those winners, as long as your streak keeps going, you get $10 in FanDuel dollars. If you get it up to 11, it's $20. If you get it up to 16, it's $50. That's for each pick. And if you somehow get it up to a streak of 21, which is super impressive, you get $100 FanDuel dollars per pick. My streak as of right now, I believe it's 2 or 3. It's up on the screen. Also, it's got to be, we always notice, you can't just pick the Dodgers every single day and whatever. You have like a minus 300 or something like that. It's got to be minus 140 or less as far as the favorites. What do you think of this one, Kirk? Because I kind of hinted at somebody you want to pick on today. Julio Teheran. I like the Fathers. I like the Padres. The Padres are the best team in all of baseball against righties. When it comes to WOBA, when it comes to ISO, when it comes to WRC+, at least 2 of those 3, maybe all 3. Doesn't really matter. It's close enough. They're really, really good. And they're facing Teheran, who's an absolute disaster. You can't get them straight up. They're minus 224, but I got them on the run line at like minus 130. What do you think of that? Minus 1.5 at minus 130. Are you in or you're out?
Typically, just a insider sharp sports betting analysis. Typically, you shouldn't be betting chalk run line, favorite run lines. They're usually not priced accordingly, but in this case, I'm with you. It lines up. I like them in this spot tonight. I'm going to be using them in DFS tonight for sure. I mean, Teheran absolutely is just a shell of his former self these days, and that bullpen is pretty bad too. It's actually the second worst xFIP on the slate, so it's a bullpen we definitely want to attack. So yeah, I like Padres. I like over. I like all that.
Yeah, and the chat's asking how chalky is San Diego going to be, and they're going to be chalky, right? We'll talk about the bats soon enough. We'll talk arms first, obviously, but 5.73 as far as the total on San Diego. They're my favorite stack tonight, but I think there's several offenses that are just like last night. There was more so last night, I suppose, as far as the offenses that I was liking and just getting pieces from all different ones. Is San Diego your top team, or you have somebody else out there you have your eye on? Like, factoring ownership, obviously.
They're my top team. I want to throw out a sports betting, something to do with sports betting, a strategy that's blew my mind the other day that my friends are doing. It's called the ladder. So what they do is they take an NBA playoff game and they take over for whatever the over under is for the first quarter. And they do, how they have alternate lines.
Yeah.
It's they ladder, they do the same unit on every single over all the way up to the whatever you can, the top. And so when the game really shoots out over, you just rake, you just collect everything. It's the new stack.
What happens if it's like the Denver game last night?
Yeah, they had over in it and they got smoked, but they were pushing it for a couple of days. No, they just.
Do you have a couch for your friends?
What's that? Yeah, sure. Always welcome.
Yeah, it's like the martingale strategy, right? Like
it always works great until it doesn't.
Yeah, 60% of the time it works every time. Kevin Roth, chief meteorologist, went ahead and updated as far as weather, as far as what's going on. And the most important one earlier today, as far as I could tell, what Roth was saying in his earlier reports was Washington and Philly. I'm not sure if you saw it. It's in chat right now. If you can check it out in RG, and we're going to drop it in chat over there. Hey, chat, like, subscribe. What's up, chat? How's everybody doing over there? You guys are all fired up today. We'll do our best to knock out your questions as this show progresses. Yellow orange in the Washington Philadelphia game. I could read it. Should I read it to you, or do you have it in front of you? I could read.
I'll read it, but I have it in front of me.
Oh, well, I guess I can read to the people. Some people are probably multitasking, making lineups, listening to us. They didn't click the link, whatever. Morning forecast still looks on track here. Game starts dry, but late arriving storms could cause for a later inning delay or game that ends before 9 innings. The line could also move in just after game time, and we'd have no issues at all. So it's much more so a chance for a game that doesn't go 9, not the certainty. I'm fine with that. Scherzer is like the most important piece for me in that game. And if he goes 7 innings, hey, he might get a complete game out of it. He get a few extra points. Sometimes that works out in our favor. But if that holds, obviously Roth is going to be on crunch time later today, and he'll give you a more update as far as what's going on in the weather there. But if that's the case, I mean, you could tell me about the bats and all that, and they'll be contrarian for sure. But, Scherzer's the best arm on this slate. We'll talk about if it's worth rostering him, depending on where you're shopping is my answer. But how do you feel about that forecast?
I feel good. I feel like we're going to play Max.
All right, let's talk about it. It's the same deal. We talked about it yesterday. Well, me and Stevie talked about it yesterday. And just the way, hey, what the slate gives you, right? Just the way DFS is pricing these players. They are making it really hard not to play a guy like Max Scherzer, even though there's some weather issues and even though it's not the perfect matchup, just because it's so easy. There's no opportunity cost to get him in there. This is DK specific, different conversation on FanDuel. We can have that conversation too. And I'm sure you're playing at Yahoo today. I did not look at Yahoo, didn't do rankings there today, so I don't know what's going on there. What's your thoughts as far as Mad Max?
Yeah, we can fit him. We play him. He's definitely the cash game play, and we also want him for tournaments. I mean, he gives us the safety and that strikeout upside and the deep pitch counts. And the only worry was the rain. Philly obviously is a tough matchup, but this is an ace, and when he's on his game, he's going to mow. We're going to rack up strikeouts, and I'm going to be using him.
No Reese Hoskins in that lineup for whatever reason. He's been hot of late and justifying all that StatCast data we were talking about at the beginning of the year. It's like, oh, he's terrible, he stinks. Well, he's just getting unlucky. Now he's starting to hit the ball, and he's benched today. One thing you don't like to see in that Philadelphia lineup is the really contact heavy. Gregorius doesn't strike out a ton. That Segura at 12%. Baum is at 14% in a small sample size. Collectively at 24.4%. But, dating back to last year, Scherzer at 34.3% as far as his Ks. This year, the Ks are right there again, 34.4%. The walk's a little bit too high at 8.1%. But like you said, the Ks on layaway seems like a really, really solid play. So, and again, at DK, there's just no opportunity cost. What do you know with Scherzer on Yahoo and on FanDuel? Because that's, at least FanDuel, I think it's a conversation.
Yeah, you play him on Yahoo. But I think on FanDuel it is a conversation. There's plenty of other good, I think you can absolutely go toe-to-toe with him over there with a guy like Lamet. Who else is hold on, let me just pull up one thing. So the Javier is cheap and definitely has strikeout upside. So it all depends on how you're going to prioritize those bats. But there are cheap bats to make Max work. So I would feel most comfortable with Max. But I think Lamet just lands in that nice zone that he makes a really strong play there. And if I'm searching for more bat upside, I'm going Javier on FanDuel. Yeah, so Lamet's a little bit tricky. You don't really pick up Rendon and Trout, but that rest of that lineup is not very good. There are some contact guys there, especially if Simmons cracks it. He's kind of like a Sogard type where he's not imposing with the stick, but he's a pest and he can have those long at bats. And, he's almost definitely not definitely, but 9.6% as far as his K rate the last 2 years. And Fletcher leads off presumably 11.9%. But there are some strikeouts there. If Walsh cracks that lineup, he's at 40%. Adele, I know he had that 2-homer night, but he's still, a youngster kind of figuring things out and, some holes in his swing. And he strikes at a ton as well, too. So does Ben Boom at 34.4% as far as his K rate. So I'm in on Lamet. I think he's pretty interesting. The tricky part there is that if I get the Lamet on FanDuel, I might as well just get the Scherzer, sort of like justifying the way I'm looking at it. And Hauser. Hauser's one of the guys that's kind of popping just because he feels underpriced on FanDuel at 6K. You mentioned Christian Javier, and I think he's pretty interesting as well at 7.6K. That Texas lineup is not very good. He's not phenomenal, but he's perfectly fine. He's well positioned for the W.
You mentioned McKenzie. He's a much better value on DK than he is on FanDuel. FanDuel, he's AK. DK, he's like 6'7" or 6'8", somewhere around there, 6'6" maybe. He's an interesting SP2 if you want to make that work. And then there's boring old Kyle Hendricks, who you kind of sort of know what you're going to get out of him. Almost definitely is not going to be the best pitcher on the slate, but he's also almost definitely not going to blow your lineup either. And then there's Jose Barrios, who, the Ks have been up, and the walks have been up, and the matchup is pretty imposing as well. I think he's a better price on DK than he is on FanDuel. I threw a bunch of pitchers your way. What are you doing with those guys?
We're still talking FanDuel specifically.
Sure. Well, you can jump back and forth, whatever you want to do. I'm jumping all over the place.
Well, yeah, you are jumping all over the place. So FanDuel specifically. So like you said, Hauser, I definitely should have mentioned him. This is a different play than Lindblom. As you saw last night, Lindblom is awful. He doesn't have. I mean, he's got junk, right? And he needs it all to be on. He's not a strikeout pitcher like he ran good and had one really good start to start the season that skewed all the strikeout numbers. But he was so cheap in Detroit, and so we all played him anyway. But this is a different scenario. So now we have a bad taste in our mouth. But Hauser, yes, his numbers are down this season from a strikeout, but he is relatively a strikeout pitcher. He's got the arsenal of pitches. He's got a four-seamer that that averages anywhere around 93 to 95, depending on the day. He has a slider, so you want heat with a slider. That's always a good recipe for strikeouts. And he's got a changeup that's actually he gets the highest swinging strike rate in his arsenal. So, and he also has a curve. So he's got like four solid pitches that he can use. So I'm completely comfortable with using him against a Detroit lineup that strikes out a ton. Way more comfortable than I was last night with Limbo.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, and it's more of a FanDuel play. I'm not playing him on DK. I don't think so, at least. I don't want to speak in definitives because everybody know what's going to happen when I'm making those lineups. Nothing official just yet as far as my lineups being locked. But, I don't want to be held to definitives, Curtis. Like, what if you say, I'm not going to play this guy. I'm not playing Dickerson. And last night you go ahead and win, all the money with Dickerson. It's like, you're a fraud. And it's like you can't even enjoy it. But I'm sure at some point happened to somebody, and you probably shouldn't worry about that stuff either because, you build up a certain level of credibility over a certain period of time. It's like things happen, obviously. All right. And you pivot late sometimes too because you're trying to catch up, and that's the smart thing to do. All right. Other pitchers that we have on our radar. Let me go ahead and pull up the DK ownership actually as far as pitchers because it kind of speaks to the conversation we're having. Scherzer, we have him rejected at 48% because it's just too easy to get him, and he's the best pitcher on the slate, and that's that. Then there's the kid, McKenzie. Tristan McKenzie is 6'7" on DK against a Kansas City team. It's not particularly imposing, and we still don't know what he is, right? He's the youngster that we're not really sure what he's going to throw out there, but he had a great first start. He had a nice positive matchup. Wasn't great the second time around. KC, obviously, again, not very threatening. And then Lamet, you mentioned at 23%, and Barrios at 21%. What do you think of Barrios at 7.9? That's a pretty good price, but of course, those White Sox, lots of offers.
Yeah, I love Barrios. I like all the options tonight. I'm not going to lie. So obviously, like on DK, so obviously Max is the preferred number one. My SP2, easy SP2 is Tristan McKenzie. You say we don't know what he is. I think I know what he is. He's young, but he's a top prospect with really good, strong pedigree, who had some back and pectoral issues that held him out of baseball for a while. So in his first start, he's got a 93 to 97 mile per hour fastball, right? He was throwing heat completely. He had a changeup that was really effective, that was hard for hitters to see. He generated a tons of swings and misses on that. His breaking stuff is average, but he's facing a Royals team that's bad. We know that that Cleveland likes to let their guys go. They're gonna, we got to assume he's getting ramped up more and more as he goes. His start was a disappointment in his last one, but it's a tough matchup against the Cardinals. I'm willing to overlook that. As long as his changeup is back on, he's throwing those pitches well, his fastball, his heater and whatnot, I think he should be able to get a plenty of Ks. And the real thing is that the Royals shouldn't be able to do much damage on him in general. This is a team with a 167 ISO against right-handed pitching and 88 WRC plus. So they strike out a really strong amount, over 24. almost 24.5%. So they're fine for a strikeout matchup. So he's so cheap on DraftKings. He just makes such an easy play. Now, there are other combos to go to, right? But that's like the easy pairing, right? There are other combos to go that we want to try to beat, especially if we think weather could play a factor in Philly. They have been doing wonky stuff this season as far as, delays and cancellations and whatnot. But those pairings that I'm looking at that I'd feel comfortable with, would be Berrios and Lamet would be, that's really easy to do tonight as well. Like I really like Lamet as general. I love his strikeout stuff. That's what I want. You're not going to get the huge pitch count, but I'm fine. I think, and Berrios is, he's had a monster start against Milwaukee. He had a tough matchup against Cleveland, but this is a guy with a lot of talent who's got some nasty pitches that, there's high risk, but there's also a fair amount of reward with this White Sox lineup, and his price is it's right. It's priced right for that risk. So I'm on board with him.
I feel like I'm supposed to not play what the field is playing on McKenzie and DK, just because he's a wild card, and we're projecting as far as his ownership at 31%. I guess that should be what it is, because again, you talked about his potential K upside and just how cheap he is. But he's also been wild, and he's still young, and who knows. But and like you said, there's definitely some pivots too.
And you got the extreme pitchers on there too.
Oh, you know what? It's funny. I was just pulling up the hitters and the umpire data here at the lineup HQ. We have several extremes. We have Morton and Montgomery with an extreme hitters umpire, Bueller and Gallen with an extreme hitters umpire. We'll talk about those guys in a second. Junis, McKenzie, extreme pitchers umpire. I mostly care about the extremes. The rest of it, I don't care so much. Is that kind of where you're at as well?
Yeah. And I'll overlook the extremes sometimes as well.
So from a talent perspective, go ahead.
No, nothing. It's not an end all be all by any shape or form. It's nice when it aligns with a play you like to have an extreme pitcher umpire.
Talent perspective, Bueller and Gallen are two of the most talented pitchers in the slate, but Bueller is expensive. He's a Dodger, which means they normally don't let him go very deep. The Dodgers are thinking long game. They don't really care about today so much. They're just thinking about they want to win the World Series. So the Padres, that'll be a fun series that goes down like that. But he's coming off a blister. How many pitches do we need out of Bueller? I guess 90, 95, we can get there. And then there's Gallen, who's a really good pitcher, but who wants to face this Dodger team, especially all that lefty power. Now, I think Kiki Hernandez went on the IL. The Leprechaun Justin Turner's in the IL. Bellinger was aching yesterday. He didn't play. So it's a chance. There's a chance we might get a weakened Dodger lineup, but it's still going to be good. Betts is going to still be there almost definitely. I should refresh here. There's no lineup just yet, right, for the Dodgers?
I don't see one.
Yeah, so we're going to see lefty power with Seager and Muncy and Peterson almost definitely. They called up Lux, the kid, and I'm not sure what the reason why he was sent to the alternative site. Maybe they just that lineup is stacked and they had too many good players, I suppose. Not really sure what happened there. I don't know. Like, Gallen's just talented and nobody's going to play him. That's an argument for him, I suppose. But maybe I'm probably just going to check back in 5 days and see who he's playing against and just pass today. Your thoughts as far as Gallen and Bueller?
They're two absolute studs, right? And they could all both, if they're on, they could have great starts tonight. Obviously, we worry a little bit about the blister issue. My lean would be that it was relatively minor because they're throwing him right back out there. It was just he just missed one start, and so I think that it was probably a lot more minor than anything. But and he certainly was dominant in his last start against the Rockies, and he gets a great matchup against this awful Arizona team who now lost Starling Marte, who had to call up guys like Josh Rojas. Do we have a lineup yet? Yep, he's in the lineup. So he could completely dominate this lineup. Could be efficient innings. So I think he's worth some GPP shots, but again, and especially if Max blew up and whatnot, it could pay off certainly. But you don't need to do it for cash just because of the pitch count potential negatives with the coming back from the blister and the Dodgers in general. Zach Gallen, same thing. This is another kid with extreme ace talent, 27% K percentage on the season, great command, but really tough matchup, but it's a little bit watered down. But I just don't. There's just not a lot of K. I mean, yeah, you get that if Gavin Lux makes the lineup, that's a K on layaway, as you like to say. But other than that, there's really not a ton of Ks here, and it's really tough getting through Mookie, Seager, Muncy, Bellinger, and so on and so forth. So again, I would take some sprinkles in GPP, but it's not a priority.
Yeah, I mean, rostering Gallen is that's not the series. That's not the route that Siri give you. It's the scenic route. It's not the direct route, but you can certainly get there. There are ways to get there, and he does have a talented enough arm where he can get by that lineup in theory. But that's not what like optimals are going to spit out at you, obviously. We did kind of brush over Javier for Houston. 25.6% K rate. The walk's a little high at 9.1%. I believe he had pretty dramatic splits as far as his Ks. Yes. So, it's not huge samples, obviously, because we don't have a lot of sample on this guy, but 37% strikeout ability against righties, only 16% strikeout ability against lefties, and also it's showing in the power and the WOBA how he's been much better against righties as opposed to lefties. And we do have 5 righties in this Detroit lineup. Did I say Detroit? I meant Texas. It's not very good. There are some strikeouts as well with Tavares leading off, and Gallo. We know the story of Gallo. He feels like a strikeout or a homer waiting to happen. Pretty much all the time, or a walk. He walks a lot. He's one of those true 3 outcome guys. To throw back to the old Adam Dunn days. What's your take? You might have gave me before, and I might have missed it. Is he sort of lost in the shuffle for you, or is he somebody if you land on it, you're just perfectly fine. You're not going to blow up your lineup?
No, I have a ton of interest. I like taking pitchers in Houston. I like not having to deal with weather issues. He's got that high strikeout stuff. He always had it, and we just haven't seen enough of him in the majors. He did have like that really filthy start and had a couple of rough starts, but those rough starts, one was in Coors and the other was against Oakland. And this is a Texas lineup that he absolutely can dominate, and there's strikeouts to be had. Now, like you said, they're probably going to throw a bunch of lefties where he has not fared so well. He obviously 16% K percentage is not great, and has certainly given up a high value hit percentage and a lot of ISO, but a lot of those numbers are Coors related. So I'm not so worried about that. I look more to what the batters, these are lefty batters that strike out a ton. It's Tavares, it's Chu's been striking out this season. Gallo is definitely a high strikeout candidate. Then they've got do we have an official lineup? Yeah, we got Jeff Mathis.
I think it's 5.
Jeff Mathis is just the easiest out in baseball. So this is a lineup he can completely dominate. I'm expecting a really good start for him, and I wouldn't put so much stock into those numbers against lefties because some of that's from Coors.
Yeah, I mean, and win equity has some value as well too. They're a 213 favorite, so assuming he pitches okay, and I think we'll talk about the bats soon enough. I think the Houston bats are going to get the howler. Houston's one of my favorite teams in the slate. Summarize the arms as we move on to the sticks.
It's Max and McKenzie on DK. Now you can also use Hauser. We never even mentioned Kyle Hendricks. That's like that should be like the easy, efficient. That should be like the safe cash play on a normal slate. Pittsburgh is just god awful, and they're striking out a lot this season. And he should be able to rack up a lot of efficient innings. And he did flash some strikeout upside in that first start, but that was completely wonky. But I think you can feel fine with him if you want to go the safer route. I mean, there's so many decent arms to play. It's like Max McKenzie, it's Lamet, it's Berrios, it's Javier, it's Buehler if you want to get, if you want to be a little optimistic about his pitch count and think that he's fine, but there is some risk there. And there's Gallen if you really want to, take a lower owned ace.
Yeah, I didn't mean to neglect Hendricks. He's just like not a sexy player to talk about. And like this year, he's going to get a ton of ground balls, 45.9% to be precise so far. Doesn't walk anybody, 2.2% walk rate, which is just incredible. Of course, a lot of contact doesn't strike a lot of guys out, 19.1%. But like you alluded to, this Pittsburgh lineup this year, specifically versus righties, 34% for Tucker. Bell has been a disaster at 29%. Moran, Bell used to have power, but that's not even a thing this year anymore. I mean, I assume it's in there. It might come out at some point, but small sample sizes a month or whatever. It's been non-existent essentially. Colin Moran will strike out a good bit. Polanco at 40%. Alfred at 57%? That's got to be a ridiculously small sample, right? It's got to be small. I got to scroll over. But, yeah, the point is 25.4% collectively as far as striking out. You don't really expect Hendricks to strike out a ton of dudes, but whatever his normal allotment of Ks are, bump it up a K or a K and a half as far as projections today based upon this lineup. And that can be perfectly fine. And, yeah, if I land on it, so be it. He's never really somebody I seek out unless I'm just desperate. The pitching slate is barren. All right, catchers. There's actually a few catchers that are kind of sort of somewhat interesting today. It all depends upon lineup construction, obviously. Who's doing it for you from the catcher position?
All right, so we've got some high upside guys, with good batting order positions. We got Wilson Contreras against a Musgrove coming back from what was it, shoulder or?
I can't remember what his injury was. Whatever it was, yeah, I'm not playing Musgrove. I mean, yeah.
Pirates' third worst bullpen from an xFIP standpoint on the slate tonight. A bullpen that you definitely want to attack, where they definitely got a lot of usage last night in that game that went to extras. So he's probably my number one, not salary. If we're not taking salary into consideration. Travis d'Arnaud against the Red Sox, batting fifth. He's going to get some platoon in there with forgot the guy who's coming in, but whoever's pitching for the Red Sox.
Mike Kickham, I think he's like the 31-year-old guy. I mean, I think he had a cup of coffee in the majors. This is essentially more or less his resurgence is the right word. Boston just says, I mean, you're a Red Sox fan. You can speak to. Yeah, it feels like is it a bullpen game every single day for Boston outside of like Martinez?
It's a joke what it is every single game.
It's so bad.
It's an absolute joke, and they it's raining out here. I bet you they just want to have a 7-inning game tonight. It's like off and on. They're just like praying that it goes. They can call it. I bet, or like 6 innings or something.
But the rules are like once the game starts, it's in the umpire's hands. Before the game starts, it's the home team that makes a decision. I believe that's correct.
Correct. I'm saying they're just praying for it. I'm saying.
Okay.
But it's so whatever. The Braves are obviously a phenomenal stack tonight again, and he's going to get some platoon advantage against Kickham. And it's a guy who can certainly take advantage of that, the Green Monster. So, yeah, I like a lot of Braves, but those are like the two high-end guys that I like if I can get him in my lineup. Then we've got some lower priced options that are good. Plawecki's been hitting decent, gets the platoon advantage, is hitting in the fifth spot in that same game. Jason Castro I don't have a Padres lineup yet, but I'm expecting him to come in, and
they have Nola projected for what it's worth, but I thought it'd be Castro as well. So I don't know.
I'm thinking it'll be Castro against Tehran. So
that's what I would guess.
I think that he could certainly go yard for sure. So he's at 3.3K. So, and no one's going to play him, especially if they're waiting on the announcement on who, but they're going to have their lineups all set ahead of time. But then there's Omar Narvaez against Turnbull. I like Turnbull, but Narvaez is a guy that could take him deep. Who else?
Has Kevin Plawecki ever hit fifth in his life in the major leagues?
What a glorious season for the Red Sox.
There are 4 guys that are worse than Kevin Plawecki. JBJ is never, and the rookie. Oh, they're actually playing Dahlback today. Good for them. Why not? Give the kid a shot. He's super cheap as well. If you want a flyer, and he's got some pedigree, and he's got some power, and he's a big dude. d'Arnaud is even playable, I think, on FanDuel, where you don't play catcher. He's like 3K, a part of an Atlanta stack. I'm good with him. Let's move on. By the way, according to the chat, according to our fabulous multitasking producer, D-Train Devin, Bledsoe's in. That's not really a you problem. I'm assuming you're not playing basketball. It's a me problem because I might have too much George Hill right now. We're going to be scrambling after the show. It's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah,
it's the exact opposite of what happened last show we did. You were scrambling the other direction.
It's just the keys. I'm always scrambling though. That's the constant for sure. But first base, we want to pick on your Red Sox, right? With Freeman, lefty power against Tehran with the newly added Moreland, with also Hosmer. I'm good with Santana. I think he's pretty cheap as well. But that's where I want to focus my start as far as first base. It's Freeman, picking on your Boston bullpen. And then, let's pick on Tehran. Like, tell me I'm wrong. That's where we're supposed to start, right?
Yeah, sure. So Mitch Moreland, if Mitch Moreland cracks that lineup tonight, Eric Hosmer, that's interesting, right? Like, which one of these guys, or do you play them both? Make multi lineups, but I like both of them. Mitch Moreland, I think the Padres are going to absolutely go. Like, after all the trades, they're just like, you got to like feel it. They're feeling good. They're just going to be looking to show off a lot of these guys, all these guys. And this is the perfect matchup to do it, especially with that Angels bullpen. So I'm expecting a lot of power action for the Padres tonight. So I like both of those guys. Dahlback, you mentioned, is the cheap guy who gets a shot, who's a better, home run hitter, but probably called up too soon, but whatever. 2,500, you can do worse. Santana, I really like him. Completely fine using Carlos Santana in a lineup because he's just priced nice at 3,900 on DraftKings. Rizzo, starting to swing the bat a little bit better. You haven't seen it, but he, has crushed some balls that were just completely bad luck that missed home runs to dead center just by like inches. I like what I see out of him. So he's probably not going to get a ton of love because of his price, because I think people will just go to Freddie Freeman, but certainly like him. Justin Smoke Monster, 3,700. It's been rough sledding with him, but I can see that working out for you. Michael Chavis, another Red Sox, against Erlin for 3,700.
You're not playing Chavis. Stop it.
I might on Yahoo because he's cheap. He's like $8.
Okay.
I might just totally punt it, but I can use Colin Moran too down there too. Same.
Pick your poison on those two.
Yeah.
But I just got the alert. People aren't aware. I'm sure you have the RotoGrinders app. Push notifications. Bledsoe is in. There you go. Which is going to have me scrambling. It was a little plug there for the push notifications if people are not aware. And I was going to go ahead and drop. We always talk about the lineups page. You guys can use that too. You go ahead and drop that in chat if you guys are not aware. It has, if it's in white, that means that's the official lineup. If it has pink as a backdrop, that means that's the projected lineup. So if you can't quite piece it together. Hey, chat, like, subscribe. Much appreciate that. And we'll do our best. We have 15 minutes. I think we'll have a little bit of time for
caress that like button. Caress it.
Caress. That's the best way to do it, right?
Yeah, that's great. That's the way. I just want to say something. As bad as it is being a Red Sox fan at this point,
sure.
At least I got my Celtics right now, who are just rolling through everybody.
I thought that would be a 7-game series, and I still think it might. But is Boston just going to roll through them? I don't think so. I'm getting
my broom ready just in case again.
Maybe we'll see. How about Miami? How about my Miami Heat? Can I take the victory lap yet? Because they're going to.
I tried to bet on them too, but I didn't want to drive, so I have to drive to New Hampshire to bet the DK.
How far away is that?
It's about 35 minutes.
Is it like a local station or a gas station or like?
There's a mall that I've been. So I felt like I was going to get arrested. I felt like I was taking part in some big drug deal. I was like the only car at midnight, and I put my last NBA series bets in before the first round. I went in there the night before at like midnight, so it felt shady. I was the only person in this mall parking lot.
Yeah, you and Marty McFly and Doc Brown.
That was the other that reminded me of that completely.
You didn't have any plutonium on you by chance, did you?
No,
certainly hope not.
Didn't bring Phil, my dog, either.
Einstein. Second, we can keep with the theme. Does anybody get our reference here? Maybe. We'll see. Let's see what the chat has to say about that. Keystone position, second base. It's bad. It's really bad today. What are you doing with second?
How low can you go? We can go pretty low. We've got some plays, right? We've got some. If we want to start, I'm going to start down to the bottom and then go top up. We've got a Horner batting ninth for 2K, min priced. We've got Rojas, who does actually have some pop. Yeah, it's a tough matchup with Bueller, but he's 2K. He's batting sixth. Seen worse plays. From an Other than that, really, we'd probably want Altuve as much as we want Altuve this season because he's not been swinging the bat too well. But I'm assuming that you have to like Houston to get things going a little bit tonight against Allard.
Yeah, and also like on FanDuel, like it's sort of his struggles are baked into the price. He's 3.2K over there, and it's putting me to a decision between like Cronenworth and Altuve. And right now, I'm siding with Altuve. On DK, obviously the price is different. 3.8K on DK for Cronenworth, and 5K. He's fully priced basically. Obviously the Dominion of Altuve once upon a time used to absolutely annihilate, used to smash the Southpaws, and that's he's scuffling. You draw your own conclusions as to why he's scuffling this season. But otherwise, it's pretty gross as far as a position. Here is another guy I'm looking at more so on FanDuel and DK. You can get there, sure, why not? But I think I'm just going to try to punt it and move on. We'll see what kind of salary I have left. They want to know in chat, what kind of car do you have? Do you have a DeLorean? What kind of car do you have?
No, I have I've got a BMW. It's like an old. I look like an old like a soccer dad. I got like a wagon. It's nice. It's nice, but it's useful. It's practical. Putting things in the back and whatnot. But
couple questions in chat. Atlanta or San Diego? Which do you prefer? Those are the two best teams, right?
San Diego is the top one. I like them both. I'm not gonna lie, but San Diego is the top stack for me. But I mean, there's a level of like Tehran, and then there's a level of like the Boston people.
Who's worse?
Yeah, I think the Boston people are worse. So like whoever, like they're definitely. I think there's like some. I know you were down on him. Who did we just crush last night?
Matt Harvey.
You were saying you were comparing.
Matt Harvey's in his own tier, to be fair.
Harvey is certainly. Tehran is not in the Harvey tier.
We're not doing that to him just yet, but maybe soon.
Oh, but for second base, a play that I would try to get up to if I'm punting, I would just try to find the 3,100 on DK for Solak. I like Javier for sure, but he's batting cleanup. The Astros have actually been the worst bullpen from an xFIP standpoint out of all the teams on the slate tonight. Yeah, 5.03 xFIP. Like you said, we don't know a ton of what Javier is, and like he can be does have a high walk rate, so we could get some bullpen things going, and maybe has a rough start. But he's 3,100. He's got pop. We know that, and I just feel a lot better if I can find that 1,100 than from one of those punts. But I'm fine with punting too.
The chat says -200. I have a Back to the Future ringtone. That is not true, but I do have my iPad. My cover for my iPad is the Gray Sports Almanac. I'm not sure if you ever. I'm sure I showed it once or twice before, but not within reach distance.
Dude, I ordered from China one of those before they became everywhere here and started blowing up houses from catching on fire. Those hoverboards.
You got one of those?
I ordered one from. I'm such a Back to the Future
you enthusiast that
I love Back to the Future 2 is my favorite ever because it incorporates the gambling. You know what I mean? Like it's
really clever.
That's big. That's big for us.
Yeah, it's one of the better sequels of all time. Like almost always sequels are terrible. But the three I try to forget. I try to pretend it didn't happen.
3,
it goes back.
It wasn't
to the
terrible
West.
if I actually watch it, but like I'm all set with a Western.
You got to play out the string. Like if you're gonna watch the first 2, you got to see the third one, but it's lower your expectations. And I do not drive a Pinto for the record, according to the chat. Do they still make Pintos? I don't know. Is that still a thing? Huh. All right, hot corner, third base. What do you have for me?
Third base. Well, we get Josh Donaldson back in our lives tonight for 3,200. Maybe his timing's off a little bit, but
he's super cheap. But there's an opportunity cost because of Ramirez and Machado.
Correct, but and if his timing's on, it's certainly a good matchup for him. So I think batting second, 3,200 against Ronaldo Lopez is pretty darn good, assuming that he's good to go. We saw Jay Bruce just step back into the lineup and homer easily the other night, and maybe Donaldson's fine. But obviously the opportunity cost, like you said, Jose Ramirez, Manny Machado are the top 2 that I want to get to. Austin Riley is just another guy for 3,600 who's now going to be completely overlooked. Like he would probably get more action if we didn't get Josh Donaldson in the lineup tonight. And so now people are just going to take the savings, I think. But he'll just be included in stacks. But I think you can use him. If you just, just searching for a home run in that game, he's going to get the platoon. with the next guy who comes in. And that's about
Nobody's going to play
That's-
Rendon. I'll just throw that out there. And there's no reason to. Doesn't make sense from a math perspective outside of the fact you understand how goofy and the variance of baseball. Rendon's a superior talent. Lamet's not a guy you necessarily want to pick on, especially from the right-hand side, but it's a fairly short slate, and just nobody's playing him. I don't have the ownership pulled up in front of me.
It's just easy for me to avoid him tonight because, if he was still the Anthony Rendon of last season that was just crushing baseballs, I would be like, okay, this is a good spot, right? No one's going to play him against Lamet. But he has not been good this season. And Lamet is just so filthy, especially against right-handed batters, that I get it, but it's something I'm not going to do.
It's funny. I'm scrolling down to find him in our ownership projections. Where is he even at? Unless I might have flew past him. I will say Rendon at 2%. Muncy at 3% seems like a better option. By the way, if you're going to do one of those things, I would take Muncy at 3%. Who's really good against righties. Obviously, Gallen more vulnerable to lefty power as well. But all right, jump back to shortstop. Are you a BBP guy? Because Lindor, I'm not sure if you've seen Lindor's BBP by chance. Lindor's BBP against Jacob Junis off the dome, 16 for 32, maybe 1 strikeout, 4 homers, 3 doubles. It's ridiculous. I don't go crazy over BBP, but I think it's more something than nothing. I think
it's definitely more something. It's just we don't know how to carry who it's something for and who it's not. But it definitely is something. And I just like it when it makes sense, right? When you see a good matchup and a good player against him, then and he happens to have good BVP, that just makes sense, right? But it's not something I look at to make my lineups. But because if that's the case, they would have played James McCann would be in the lineup today, wouldn't he? But
I did see McCann beat him up too, and McCann is not in the. Yeah, I guess they don't care for BVP in that Cleveland organization.
Let's do it. Let the BVP plays of the day. Eric Hosmer, he's in there. Will Myers.
I didn't see those. I didn't
Max
catch those.
Kepler. Oh, the list goes on and on. Those are the BVP plays of the day.
All right. Well, the only one that popped for me was Lindor. That's what I noticed. But I take a quick gander at it and just kind of see. But yeah, I don't obsess over it. And then it's Tatis or Lindor or Swanson, and it's just the same old teams over and over. I sound like a broken record, but that's where I'm at. Those are the key plays. Of course, you can play Turner. Of course, you can play Gregorius. Scherzer is vulnerable to give power on occasion when the ball's actually hit against them. Tournaments only, obviously, there. Give me some pivots away from the chalk at shortstop.
So to me, I see what you did with the 3 because of Swanson was the matchup, but I think Tatis and Lindor are just such better overall hitters with much more power upside that they're clearly superior plays. I would feel more, I guess the pivots for me would be Xander, against the lefty, Javier Baez against Musgrove, who I'm not in a terrible bullpen. It seems like Baez, horrible plate discipline, swings for the moon every single time, way too many ground balls. But when he gets a hold of one, he gets a hold of one and just absolutely smashes it. So I wouldn't be shocked that this is one of those slates where he just goes off and has a couple home runs and because of that bullpen behind Musgrove. And I'm expecting Musgrove to struggle. So I guess that would be it. Jorge Polanco, but Polanco's all of his StatCast metrics are just awful. He just does not barrel the ball. He hits a home run every now and then, luckily, but he's got horrendous numbers. But I think he's gonna pop projection wise, so he might get some play here.
I think it depends who you're shopping. 4.7 on DK, I don't love, and he's one of those guys that typically needs more than one plate appearance to get it done, unless he comes up with the bases loaded and hits the ball in the gap. And like you said, he can occasionally bang one out, but he usually needs the help of others, guys being on, just put one in the right spot. Fine hitter, but not spectacular. By the way, I say fabulous multitasking producer D-Train, and it's not just a saying; it's true. They're asking in chat about the weather, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna pull up the weather and show you guys on the screen. Full service producing here by Devin.
What a man! What a man!
Yeah, no, he's all over. He's on top. He's on top of it. Just want to give him a shout out. And did want to mention, if you guys are not aware, we'll drop the link in chat for you guys again as far as the weather, not just on the screen, but you can see you can see it for yourself on your own leisure. And of course, Kevin Roth will be on Crunch Time later with not just Dave Potts Cheese is Good, but STL Cards. So 3-man booth talking baseball all the way up the lock. It's yellow-orange currently, if you guys don't see it on the screen as far as Philadelphia. And the way I read it, and again, don't trust me, we read it on the fly, but I'm just reading what Ross says and just kind of interpreting it. Maybe it goes 6 or 7 innings. it doesn't fully finish, which is perfectly fine with me if I'm just going to play Scherzer or nobody else. But again, stay tuned and see what Roth has to say. We're running behind now. I gave too many accolades to Devin, and I blew some time. So catch me up. Give me some outfitters you like.
I mean, if a guy triple dongs the day before, you got to throw him in, load him up again at massive ownership, right?
Yeah, the problem is he's still a really good player. You're talking about Ozuna, right? And the third one, Bobby, I think the ball still has not landed yet. It was like you never see it. Like the batter's eye, like dead center in Boston. It was crazy. But it's still a really good price. And like you're supposed to play him. And Grisham, you're supposed to play him. And your cash games, obviously. In tournaments, you can do whatever you want in baseball. But Grisham and Ozuna, Kepler's fine. Springer on FanDuel at 3.5, even DK 4.4 is fine. Franmil Reyes, still well positioned, still pretty cheap. No Jason Hayward. Somebody who's super cheap. He did not crack the lineup on DK. But you could spend up on a guy like Boomstick Cruz, who's probably going to be ignored once again. Give me a couple of your favorite outfielders and give me some of your favorite stacks as well.
I mean, Ian Happ. This is a guy who never, like, he always gets overlooked for some reason. But his numbers are absolutely gaudy so far this season. 413 WOA with 354 ISO. Gets a matchup with Musgrove where he's got the platoon. And a bad bullpen behind. And he's cheap, right? Like he's 4K. He went down 100 after yesterday. So man, what an easy play he is to me. Christian Yelich is going to be like a really popular high end guy. Ozuna is going to be extremely popular. Good play, like you said, but I may just fade for ownership reasons. Trent Grisham, probably.
Yeah.
And George Springer is a guy who might been a rough sledding with him too. Has battled some hand injuries and whatnot, but you have to like the Astros in this spot tonight. And so Springer leading off 4,400 is just extremely tempting to me.
All right, gonna hand it off to Crunch Time in just a second. Do want to ask you guys when you're walking out the door, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We much appreciate that. Caress it, tap it, cuddle with it, whatever you want to do. However it works, however it makes it happen. Give me a couple stacks for the road.
Well, the Twins and Padres are going to be top stacks. Twins are so easy to do now because of Donaldson being so cheap to get those power hitters. But then the Braves are going to be up there. I think to look at the Astros and Cubs as maybe potentially a little bit lower owned. Those are. I'm not messing around. It's probably all chalky, but just try to gauge which ones are the chalkiest and see if you like an option better. But all those offenses should be rolling tonight.
There you have it. Crushed the slate tonight. Much appreciate you guys watching, supporting the channel. He was Kirk Dees. I was Dean. This was baseball. Stay tuned for Crunch Time. We're out of here. Holler. Go Heat.